Picture a quiet Sunday morning. Sunlight cuts through the mist on your lawn, falling softly on a brand new wooden feeder filled to the brim with premium seeds and suet. It looks like a peaceful sanctuary, an open invitation to the colorful world of backyard nature. You step back with your coffee, expecting a vibrant chorus of finches, titmice, and chickadees. Instead, the garden is dead silent. A single, sleek shape drops out of the sky like a velvet shadow. It doesn't land to eat, it lands to conquer. With a sharp metallic snap of its beak, at a posture of pure arrogance, it sweeps the tray clean, striking out at anything that dares approach. You thought you built a sanctuary, but what you actually opened is an organized crime syndicate right outside your kitchen window. Most people assume that every feathered visitor arriving at a backyard feeder is a welcome guest. We look at bright feathers, cheerful chirps, and graceful wings, projecting human warmth onto creatures that operate under a completely different code. But beneath the charming exterior of many common backyard birds lies a ruthless, calculating psychological warfare. What most homeowners do not realize is that certain species do not view a feeder as a shared community resource. They view it as a conquered province. These birds function like organized crime bosses, establishing protection rackets, enforcing curfews, and driving every other songbird into terrified exile. Think about the classic blue jay or the European starling. To the untrained eye, they look vibrant and active. But watch closer. Observe the way other birds freeze when a specific shadow passes overhead. Notice how smaller, delicate species like goldfinches or nuthatches are forced to wait in the cold brush, shivering and starving, while a single tyrant gorges itself on luxury seeds. This isn't nature just taking its course. It is psychological terror orchestrated by avian elites. We put out food with pure intentions, completely blind to the fact that we are inadvertently funding a local dictatorship. The feeder is no longer a feeding station. It is a choke point, and the tyrants hold all the cards. There is something deeply unsettling about realizing the peaceful backyard oasis you worked so hard to create has been hijacked by a ruthless bully. When you understand the chilling mechanics of avian territorial dominance, you can no longer look at your garden the same way. The quiet tension, the sudden empty spaces, the desperate fleeing of defenseless songbirds, it all snaps into focus. But understanding this hidden dark side gives you the power to reclaim your yard. By the time we unravel how these winged tyrants operate, you will know exactly who is running your trees, why they are doing it, and how to restore peace to your property before your favorite songbirds vanish for good. Before we pull back the curtain on the tyrants living in your trees, take a quick second to hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. We are exposing the hidden realities of the natural world that most people walk past every single day, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Now, let's step into the dark side of the backyard ecosystem and expose the first major tyrant. Imagine a brilliant flash of cobalt blue cutting through the morning fog, landing on your wooden platform with a heavy, deliberate thud. The entire atmosphere of the garden changes instantly. The soft chatter of chickadees drops to absolute zero. Every single bird within 50 feet vanishes into the thick brush like smoke. This is the blue jay operating at the height of its power, functioning less like a simple songbird and more like a mafia enforcer running a protection racket. In the wild, blue jays are part of the corvid family lineage, sharing DNA with crows and ravens, boasting an intelligence level that far surpasses most backyard visitors. When a blue jay claims a feeder, it doesn't just eat, it dominates the psychological space of the entire micro-ecosystem. They use calculated intimidation, mimicry of hawk calls to terrify rival species, and sheer mass to bully everything else away. Consider the real-world mechanics of how they clear a station. A single blue jay will descend, swallow as many large sunflower seeds as its throat pouch can physically hold, sometimes up to 5 or 6 at once, and then aggressively dive bomb any smaller bird that attempts to land. They return over and over, not because they are starving, but to hoard resources and establish absolute dominance over the territory. The hidden insight most people miss is that blue jays use your feeder as a localized food bank for their hidden caches, storing stolen seed in your very own lawn and gutters. The sound of their harsh metallic screeches acts as a psychological siren, telling every songbird in the neighborhood that this zone is compromised. If you want peace, you have to understand that inviting a blue jay family without structural boundaries means sacrificing every other species you hoped to see. If the blue jay is a solitary mob boss, the European starling is an entire occupying army. Picture a heavy, iridescent black silhouette with a sharp, yellow dagger for a beak, dropping onto a suet cage not as an individual, but as the vanguard of a shrieking, chaotic cloud. Starlings do not negotiate, and they do not share. Introduced to North America by eccentric enthusiasts trying to bring every bird mentioned in Shakespeare's plays to the New World, these birds have evolved an explosive colonial mindset. When a flock of 30 starlings descends upon a backyard feeder, they completely overwhelm the physical space through sheer numbers and aggressive body-slamming mechanics. Look closely at how they feed. Unlike songbirds that delicately peck at seeds or cling gracefully to mesh, starlings use a specialized skull structure and powerful jaw muscles to force their beaks deep into suet blocks or seed trays, prying them open and flinging food in every direction. They create a chaotic feeding frenzy that terrifies smaller cavity-nesting birds like bluebirds and swallows. The real-world consequence is a devastating cascade effect. Starlings are notoriously aggressive nest site usurpers. They don't just steal your suet, they will ruthlessly evict native birds from nearby nesting boxes, sometimes destroying eggs or killing nestlings in the process. The hidden danger of the starling is its efficiency. Once a flock marks your yard as an easy, high-calorie staging ground, word spreads through complex vocalizations, and within days, your peaceful oasis is entirely overrun by an invasive mafia that refuses to leave. There is a distinct, mechanical clacking sound that echoes through the trees before a common grackle arrives, a sound that strikes instant fear into the hearts of every goldfinch and housefinch in your garden. Picture an iridescent, bronze-backed giant with pale, unblinking yellow eyes that look like cold glass. Grackles belong to the blackbird family, and their approach to backyard feeders is nothing short of systematic resource eradication. While smaller birds nibble delicately, grackles treat the feeding tray like a feeding trough at an industrial farm. They arrive in synchronized waves, using their elongated keel-shaped tails to balance precariously while they dominate every square inch of available platform space. Consider the psychological toll this takes on delicate visitors. A grackle's unblinking yellow eye contact is an evolutionary intimidation tactic. It locks onto smaller birds, signaling dominance before a single feather is ruffled. If a brave finch holds its ground, the grackle deploys its secret weapon, a specialized ridge inside its upper mandible that allows it to crush hard-shelled corn and large seeds with mechanical ease, leaving nothing behind but empty hulls and crushed debris. The hidden insight behind the grackle's dominance is its opportunistic cruelty. Grackles have been documented hunting, killing, and consuming the nestlings of smaller songbirds right in suburban yards. When you load up an open tray feeder with cheap, bulk seed heavy on corn and milo, you are basically hanging an open neon sign that invites these avian predators straight to your doorstep, turning your viewing window into a theater of quiet ecological displacement. Imagine a bird so small, so seemingly unassuming, that most people mistake it for just another harmless brown sparrow. Yet this tiny street fighter is responsible for the silent, catastrophic collapse of native cavity nesting populations across entire continents. Meet the house sparrow, an urban terrorist disguised in modest feathers. House sparrows are not true sparrows at all. They are old-world weavers, highly adapted to human civilization, concrete jungles, and backyard feeding stations. When they locate a feeder filled with millet or cracked corn, they don't just feed, they colonize. They form aggressive street gangs that relentlessly harass, peck at, and drive away native birds twice their size. Look at the motion of a house sparrow feeding. It is jittery, relentless, and marked by constant posturing. Wings slightly drooped, chests puffed out in perpetual defiance, they crowd out native species by sheer persistence, monopolizing feeding ports from dawn until dusk. The real-world horror of the house sparrow lies in its nesting habits. Because they breed continuously through the spring and summer, they constantly search for secure cavities near your feeding stations. If a native bluebird or titmouse has built a nest in a nearby box, the house sparrow gang will systematically slaughter the adults, peck open their skulls, and build their own messy nests right on top of the corpses. By providing an open buffet of cheap seed, you're bankrolling the very headquarters from which these aggressive invaders launch their local campaigns of extermination against your favorite songbirds. Picture a bird that never builds a nest, never feeds its own young, and relies entirely on psychological warfare and deception to survive. The brown-headed cowbird doesn't fight you at your feeder, it uses your feeder as a recruitment center for an involuntary army of surrogate parents. The male cowbird is a glossy black silhouette with a rich brown head, while the female is a dull, stealthy gray. They arrive quietly at feeding stations, blending into the background before making their move. But their aggression isn't physical, it's parasitic. Consider the real-world strategy of the cowbird. The female watches silently from the branches above your feeder, tracking local songbirds as they carry food back to their hidden nests. Once the nest is located, the female cowbird waits for the owners to leave, sneaks in, punctures or removes a native egg, and lays her own larger, faster incubating egg in its place. The hidden tragedy unfolds when the cowbird chick hatches. Because it is larger and louder, it demands all the food from the exhausted foster parents' cardinals, warblers, or sparrows, while starving the native chicks to death. Your backyard feeder acts as the primary fuel station that keeps adult cowbirds fat, healthy, and energized enough to lay dozens of destructive eggs across the neighborhood. By feeding the cowbird at your tray, you are unwittingly paying for the destruction of an entire generation of songbirds. We have exposed the dark underbelly of your backyard feeding stations. We have unmasked the blue jay's protection racket, the starling swarm encroachment, the grackl's industrial eradication, the house sparrow's urban terrorism, and the cowbird's psychological parasitism. These aren't just cute visitors dropping by for a snack. They are highly evolved survival specialists that weaponize your generosity against the very songbirds you actually want to see. For years, people have blamed bad luck or poor seed quality for the absence of colorful finches and warblers. But the truth is far more structural. You are operating an unregulated open-access arena where bullies hold all the cards and weak-willed feeding designs give tyrants an unfair advantage. As we approach the final revelation, the hidden pieces lock together. You realize that fixing your backyard isn't about buying more food or adding more trace. It is about changing the architecture of survival itself. The ultimate secret to reclaiming your backyard, the revelation that shatters common assumptions, is that open-tray bird feeding is an accidental tyranny machine. When you stop providing broad, easily accessible flat platforms and massive quantities of cheap filler seeds like millet and cracked corn, the entire power dynamic shifts instantly. By switching to caged feeders with restrictive port sizes that only allow nimble, lightweight goldfinches and chickadees to cling upside down, you instantly lock out the heavy, aggressive tyrants like starlings, grackles, and blue jays. By removing open nesting boxes near high-traffic feeding zones, you cut off the supply lines of house sparrows and cowbirds. The moment you redesign your feeding infrastructure to filter out the bullies, the atmosphere of your garden undergoes a miraculous transformation. The terror lifts. The silent, empty trees suddenly explode with the vibrant, fearless colors of delicate songbirds that finally feel safe enough to return home. Remember that quiet Sunday morning we started with? The polished wooden tray sitting in the center of the lawn, dominated by a single, arrogant shadow that scared everything else away? Step back out onto that same porch today. The open tray is gone, replaced by precision-engineered selective feeders nestled quietly near protective cover. The bullies are pacing helplessly on the ground below, unable to crack the code. And right above them, in the branches and ports, a thriving chorus of songbirds sings out in total freedom, reclaiming the sanctuary you built for them. Which of these backyard bullies has taken over your feeders, and what steps are you going to take to kick them out? Drop a comment below.